Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. It's a pleasure to follow the Honourable Member for Bootle. In considering the provisions of the budget, which my right honourable friend, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, presented on 3rd March, and this ensuing finance bill, it must be borne in mind that they are being delivered against a backdrop of a wholly unprecedented economic circumstances. The global economy has suffered a shock that has not been seen for almost 100 years. Set in this context, my right honourable friend has generally struck the right balance in supporting people and businesses through the crisis, beginning the task of fixing the public finances and laying the foundation stone for an investment-led green recovery. There are some very welcome initiatives. The extension of furloughing to the end of September, 2 further grants for the self-employed, with an additional 600,000 people being eligible, the restart grants, extending the VAT cut to 5% for a further 6 months before tapering for another 6, the extension of the business rates holiday for 3 months before tapering for 9, the increase in corporation tax, but with a small profits rate being retained at the existing level, the super deduction on capital investment, and the steps being taken to promote pension fund investment in infrastructure. Madam Deputy Speaker, from a Suffolk and Waveney perspective, the headlines in the budget and in the bill are the Felixstowe Freeport and the Lowestoft Towns Fund deal. These can be a catalyst for private sector investment, and for the latter, where I sit on the place board, it is estimated that the £24.9 million of public funding will leverage in £350 million worth of private sector investment. Previously, I was doubtful about freeports, concerned that they moved business around, displacing projects rather than attracting additional investment. However, taking into account the unprecedented challenges of COVID and the opportunities of Brexit, it is necessary to pursue policies that can help footloose global investment. Those we've heard detailed consideration of the provisions of the policy will need to be looked at very closely. A concern that I do have is that the focus on freeports could lead to the abandoning of enterprise zones, introduced very successfully by my right honourable friend, the member for Tunbridge Wells, in 2012. The Lowestoft and Great Yarmouth enterprise zone has worked very well. Its provisions need some changes so that it is properly aligned with the exciting opportunities emerging in the maritime and port sectors, and it is important that this and other enterprise zones continue. The Finance Bill paves the way for the Levelling Up Fund and the UK Community Renewal Fund. There are elements in the small print that do cause me concern. With the former, the Lowestoft and Waveney area, where there are significant areas of poverty, is in the Priority 2 category, whilst with the latter, there are no priority places in Suffolk, yet there are in the surrounding very, very similar counties of Norfolk, Essex and Cambridgeshire. This, Madam Deputy Speaker, does appear illogical and not properly thought through, and I am writing to my right honourable friend, the member for Newark, seeking clarification on the selection criteria. Madam Deputy Speaker, COVID has hit hard the poorest in society. It was thus right that a year ago the government moved very quickly to introduce the £20 uplift universal credit and to provide unprecedented levels of funding to local government for welfare support. I welcome the extension of the universal credit uplift to the end of September and the one-off payment of £500 to those receiving working tax credits. However, I am concerned that the impact of COVID on the most disadvantaged will extend beyond the end of the summer and could well be heightened at the time that furloughing is scheduled to end. The government have put in place some very good initiatives, such as the Kickstart Scheme, the Restart Scheme, and the Lifetime Skills Guarantee. But there does need to be a strategic approach to providing people with a pathway out of poverty, and there is a worry that some important stepping stones are missing. I urge my Right Honourable friend to work closely with his Cabinet colleague and Right Honourable friend and my constituency neighbour, the Right Honourable Member for Suffolk Coastal, to ensure that we have a welfare support system that is fit for the task ahead. This should incorporate proper long-term funding for local welfare assistance, synchronisation with the implementation of the National Food Strategy, and ensuring that those on legacy benefits are not left behind. Madam Deputy Speaker, in conclusion, this bill does provide the framework for meeting the biggest economic challenge in our lifetimes. But there is a need to look more closely at some of the detail, whether that is the criteria for bidding to economic regeneration funds or the need for a strategic approach to welfare support. I hope that in the weeks ahead, the government will do this. Thank you.